So I'm working on my 2013 Toyota Highlander. It has the 3.5 V6 and I'm doing a water pump. So I want to kind of give you a couple of tips that might help you and save you a couple of headaches as I figured out. Now, I'm not doing a full in-depth video as, well, it would take forever and it's hard to record some of these shots. Doable, but quite difficult. But anyways, the first thing that you want to do is drain your coolant. Obviously, drain the radiator, but there's actually one on the block on these engines, and I'll post a picture up here. If you drain that one, it's going to drain all the coolant out of the block, and that way when you remove the pump, you're not going to make a big mess. You'll have some stuff come out, but it's not going to splash all over the place. I definitely recommend doing it. And the advice I will give you for that is look at your drain valve on the block. If it's rusty, crusty, because you live in the salt rust belt, don't mess with it because it'll snap off. You might run into some other issues or not be able to seal it properly. But I live in the South. It is not rusty or crusty, and I was able to drain it without having to worry about it breaking. So that's my first advice. Now, there is going to be a motor mount up here and a big, I guess, aluminum piece to hold it. That's these over here. And what you want to do is go ahead and loosen them. And after loosening them, you're going to need to jack up the engine. So now jacking up the engine is the trick, because Toyota wants you to remove the engine, or drop the engine in this case, so you could do this job, but you don't have to, and there is enough room. So the first thing you want to do is, you see this motor mount right over here? There's bolts underneath. There's 2 of them on this side, 2 on the frame, and I think there's 1 right over here. Let me double check. Yeah, 2 on the frame, 1 right underneath. There's a little plastic there's these little plastic caps. Take those out, and that's gonna loosen that. And there's another one right back over there. If you look at it, right behind the sway bar, and there's 2 bolts back there. Those are 14s, I believe. Loosen those. Once you do that, you'll be able to jack up the engine. Now, mine's is lowered because we'll also do another thing, and I'm talking about that in just a sec. But you want to be able to jack it up until this part is pretty much almost touching the wire loom. I mean, as close as you get until you feel tension. And that's going to give you plenty of room to slide out the water pump with the pulley. Now, the biggest recommendation I am going to make is, if you do the water pump, do the tensioner. If you're going to do the tensioner, do the water pump. Here's why. Because you're going to have to drain the coolant, get most of this stuff out of here. And if you're doing the water pump, there's not too much work left if you're going to change that tensioner. Now, you could just do the pulleys, but I've read that Toyota has an upgraded design, or something changed on the tensioner. So now's the time to change it. As far as getting in there, you're going to have to remove the fans, take out the duct work and all that stuff. And this kind of slides right over here, and that gets out of your way. And that allows you access right here to get to the alternator. Now, the alternator is a bit tricky if you're not aware of this, and this caught me. Now, the alternator has these 2 bolts, one right over here, one right over here. I took them out and I still couldn't get it out because I did not know about this bracket. So if you look, there's actually a bolt right over here, 12 millimeters. You don't have to take this one out, but there's one that goes to the block right over here. Let's see if I can kind of get in there and show you. Probably not, but there's one that goes to the block. And if you look for it and you take that out, this will slide out, and that'll allow you to get the alternator out. And then at that point, you can slide out the AC compressor just like so, and that allows you access to the many bolts that hold the belt tensioner in. Now, I've already got my tensioner in. I think it's like 1, 2, 3. I think it's like 5 of them. They're 14 millimeters. Once you get that in, you'll be good to go. And at least that part will be done. Now, another recommendation, if you're doing this job, buy Toyota OEM parts. So now, this is the original pump. This vehicle has 200,000 miles on it. And this is the older design. Apparently, these designs were notorious for having some issues with the bearings. They leak. This one is not making a bad noise, but it's starting to get a little bit crunchy. So it was definitely due for replacement. And this is the upgraded design from Toyota. You could get this at Rock Auto 20 times or maybe even 100 times cheaper than Toyota. And if you notice, if you have this style pump, you're good to go. If you're using this one, you need to change it. If you go with the aftermarket ones, they won't last. They leak from what I've read, but it's the same part. ASIN, except they just scribbled out the whole Toyota marking. So make sure you go Toyota OEM. Now, while you're here, this is the perfect time to change the thermostat. I already went ahead and changed it. And one thing you will see is that there is actually a hose right over here. Let's see if I can get that in. You don't need to take that off. It's fine. They don't go bad. If you want to mess with it and run into trouble, then you're going to have to take out the intake manifold to get through that bypass hose. So just leave it alone. Just slide it up just like so. There's not a lot of tension on it, and you'll be fine. Now, if you get the kit from Rock Auto, the ASN kit, it does come with this O-ring right over here. You do need to change that out. Haven't changed mine just yet. So another thing to kind of keep in mind. Now, it's not a terrible job, but it's a little bit involved. I mean, if you look at it, there's just not a ton of room. But like I said, if you jack up the engine, mine's is not jacked up because I'm dealing with the putting the compressor on, the tensioner, and the alternator. You should have enough room to get everything out. Now, as far as this wiring harness, I do recommend loosening these 10mm bolts. There's one over here. There's one right up over here. And this kind of gives you room to wiggle things out so you're not pinching anything like that. But the biggest fight that you will have is the alternator if you're not aware of this bracket. As this bracket, I didn't know about it, and I spent a lot of hours trying to deal with it just to find out that that bolt goes right to the block. Now, something else to kind of help you, and this helped me, is take off all your splash guards underneath. I took the one from over here, took the other one down, and by doing that, I was able to see everything. Let's see if I can get you a better view. But I was kind of able to see everything, all the bolts and everything. I loosened all the wiring harnesses because I didn't want anything to get tugged or anything like that, but we'll put it back as soon as I get everything done with it. And another thing too, while you're here, if you buy the tensioner, the one from Toyota, now this one was like $130. I got the OEM one, upgraded one. It does come with the pulley. There is another idler pulley right over here. Go ahead and change that. Mine's with 200,000 miles was starting to make some noise. So this is the perfect time to do it. If you're doing the water pump, change the tensioner, change the pulleys. The only trouble that you may run into is the alternator, but the key to the alternator, like I said, is this bracket. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up. Hopefully this advice helps you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see what else I can fix.